means the same atrocity were going on and on. And the US and West just closed their eyes to the fact that what these groups were doing to Afghanistan simply because they wanted to win the Cold War and to put more pressure on Russia and Russia-backed government in Afghanistan. And Afghans were simply caught between hard and rock. From one hand, we had an oppressive regime supported by Russia, which was denying the basic rights of Afghan people, and thousands of intellectuals and people were just ended up in prisons and they were disappeared for very minor reasons for practicing their rights, or sometimes for no reasons. And from the other hand, you had all these mujahideen groups, fundamentalist groups that were on raise every day, and their number turned to 15 groups, and the only thing they were doing was fighting the secular sect of the society, again, killing teachers, killing students, and burning and destroying the basic fundamental infrastructures of the country. In 1992, after the collapse of communists in Russia and the Eastern Bloc was quite destabilized, Afghanistan communist regime also collapsed and Mujahideen took over. During those years, a civil war started in Afghanistan. But unfortunately, Afghanistan was no more in the interest of US and West. Because what they really wanted, they got rid of the Russia, and Afghanistan was no more worth it for them. And during those years, what happened? The fighting between the communists and Mujahideen, which were in the villages or in far a kind of unpopulated area, it brought into the cities. And Mujahideen groups started fighting and killing people for the language you were speaking, from the ethnic group that you were belong to, or for the area that you were living in. I myself, during 1993, was a student at the Kabul University, and the Kabul University turned into a first line of battleground between different Mujahideen factions group, and many of university girls were raped and killed and disappeared. Every night, at the middle of the night, I would wake up with a scream of a girl who was dragged out of her home by Mujahideen groups. And they were gang raped, they were killed, and their bodies were thrown on the streets. I can't also tell you how many countless nights I was sleeping in a chicken house at the backyard of our home, simply not to be dragged by one of these Mujahideen groups, and I was in the fear of not being gang raped and killed. I had to cut short my university studies because as soon as you would go to university, you could be followed by one of those people and you could have been raped, killed, disappeared, or being taken as a sexual slave. This was the horror that we were living. What you're hearing about ICE, this was the nightmare that Afghans are experiencing since 1992 till now. Yes, and again, no one was really looking. I struggled looking at EU and USAID funding for Afghanistan from 1992 till 2001. I couldn't find any. Even there wasn't any single penny for development funding for Afghanistan. And you may not believe. Many people, they left the country, including I myself. We had to leave Afghanistan because of the civil war. And then in 1996, another group called Taliban took Kabul. Taliban didn't come in 1992. Taliban emerged in 1994 in Pakistan, in Chaman area of Quetta. And I was totally shocked on 1995 when I was in Pakistan. I could see how the diplomatic elite of Islamabad and how the UN was talking high about Taliban as messengers of peace. I was totally shocked. They were talking about how these Taliban want to bring peace, justice, and disarmament to Afghanistan and pave the ground for transfer of power to the ex-king of the country. And this wasn't a Pakistani, this wasn't an Afghan, this was the US and West diplomats, and this was the United Nations. And on that time, I was working as a journalist. The situation continued, and Taliban received enormous support, not only from Pakistan, not only from some Middle Eastern country. I also heard that they were supported by the US administration simply to disarm the armed groups in Afghanistan and to bring peace to the country and to pave the situation for the peaceful transfer of power to the ex-king of the country. Sorry, I can't finish in 1 minute. But yes, I think, where are we now? After 9/11, sorry, I have to cut it short. After 9/11, when Afghanistan once again came at the center of the attention of the world, and Afghanistan turned into a home of
काम और खोंड दिया मेरा भी लिए फोटो में यही तो आ गया, रिकॉर्डिंग हो रही है, फिल्म बनने लग रही है तो आ जाओ सवाल लेने की चीज है ना, जब हम ज्यादा कर लेंगे फिर न्यू कर देखना है इतना इतना बड़े बड़े आ रहे कुछ मोटे मोटे दुनिया बुने कड़ा करे क्या वहाँ पर तो बहुत दुनिया है, कोई दिल्ली का रहा, कोई अंग्रेज, पूरी दुनिया में इंडिया में हो फालतू पैसे, पूरे पाकिस्तान अफ्रीका अफ्रीका में जंगली हो हैं, और इंडिया में हरियाणा में है, और हरियाणा में आ रहा है तो समझ लो दुनिया में है, दुनिया वाली चीज है। हाँ, मतलब एक ना यू है इंडिया में, दुनिया में हुआ, इंडिया में हरियाणा में हुआ। हेलो, नंबर 1 का यू है सिर्फ एक, वो चल रहे हैं बढ़ते हैं। हाँ हाँ, गुआने ठीक ठीक है, आराम से बैठिए। ये दिखा दे आपने, इसने नहीं नाम जीते कहा ना दुनिया में ना कोई जीतता है ना जीतेगा, जितने इसने जीत रखी। भगवान के है भाई को, तुमको नहीं प्यार करे कौन होगा डांगरे, भगवान को रोटे पे दे रहे हो इसके पे दे रहे हो, लेकिन वो बात ये देखो जो इसका बॉडी बैलेंस है ना वो किसके होता है। हाँ, इसमें तो अंदा ही नहीं फ्रेम में तो 1 लाख के ले रहे ने, जबकि 20,000 फालतू फालतू होता है। अंडर टेल 2 महीने बाद 7 लाख रुपए बाकी देते। कोई कीमत नहीं, इस पे देखो एक फैक्ट्री है,